It's all the way uptown.
Ready to roll? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular scheduled meeting, City of Griffin Board of Commissioners, August 23, 2022. We're going to begin by the Pledge of Allegiance being led by Commissioner David Brock, followed with me leading the invocation. Please join us.
Let's join the pledge to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to come here to do the work of the city. Keep us united as a team for the betterment of all citizens of Griffin. Keep us united for one Griffin. In your name, amen.
Amen.
We've got the agenda. We need to do an amendment on the agenda. I need a motion to amend the agenda. Item 4, consent agenda to read. Item 4, consider the purchase of one John Deere utility tractor with loader in the amount of $40,952.38 from Deere and Company under state contract. So a motion by Mr. McCord, second by Mr. Brock to approve the amended agenda. All in favor, please signal by raising your hand. 4-0. Moving into citizens' comment. At this time, the mayor opens the floor to comments from the audience. Comments should relate to a specific agenda item not listed on the agenda for a public hearing or to the concern within the jurisdiction of the city. Commission meetings serve the purpose of conducting city business and are not a forum for the unlimited expression of opinion. The mayor reserves the right to limit comments to matters germane to city business and may refer speakers to the city manager or other staff for resolution. So if you are here to speak on anything other than the public hearing matter in regards to the millage rate, if you're on my left and like to come before the board, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Is there anybody on my left side? Is there anybody on my right side? All right. Moving into public hearings. Public hearings are conducted to allow public comments on specific advertised issues such as a rezoning, ordinance, policy, development, operating budgets, and other legislative actions to be considered by the City Commission. Our one item tonight is receive comments regarding a resolution to adopt the 2022 calendar year tax millage rate at the rate of 7.083 mils. City Manager Jessica O'Connor will address.
Good evening, and I apologize for having to listen to this again, but this is our second of 3 public hearings that we will have in regards to our millage rate. We are asking as staff to recommend to adopt the current millage rate at 7.083 instead of taking the rollback rate. Unfortunately, the legislature requires that we advertise this as a tax increase. In my humble opinion, it is not, because the tax rate is staying the same. So what is happening is we are asking to tax what the values were that were increased if they were reassessed. So as we go through this presentation, I'd ask that you keep that in mind. First, we go through the historic millage rates. And give you the 10 years worth of millage rate since 2012. As you can see, they decreased every year until 2019, at which time we could no longer continue to decrease what we were receiving in property tax revenue. So we asked that the millage rate remain at 7.083 and have done so for the past few years and are doing so again this evening. For our digest numbers, the 2021 digest, net digest is $651,786,950. 2022's net digest is $725,797,312. In 2021, we had reassessments and other digest changes of over $33 million. This year, we have over $74 million in reassessments and other digest changes. So with that equation and computation, the tax commissioner says that in order for us to receive the same dollar amount that we received last year, we would have to tax at 6.258 mils. If you go into what we budgeted for this year, the revenue for FY23 specific to property taxes were budgeted at $4,248,250. And FY22, we budgeted $4,204,500. As you can imagine, a $40,000 increase in revenue is not sufficient to cover the cost increases that we have already seen throughout this year. If you look at that revenue budgeted based on what the rollback rate would entail us to receive, at 100% collections, it would be $4.5 million, which would be $300,000 over budget. However, we do not collect taxes at 100%. We are normally around 89. So if you look at 90% collections, you would collect $4,087,836, which is almost $200,000 under what is budgeted. If you look at the current rate at 7.083, which we are proposing that we keep at 100% collections, we're at $5.14 million. At 90% collections, which again is generally what we collect, you would collect $4,626,740. All of that sounds great, except for what we all know has gone on the past year or so in cost increases, inflation, and other such labor shortages. So if you collected that 89.8% that we collected in FY23, the total property tax revenue for this fiscal year would be approximately $4,616,458. Some of the examples of what we have already incurred for this fiscal year in increases are our equipment and supply costs. For example, One Griffin Center's access control has increased 18.3%. Turnout gear for the firefighters has increased 31.8%. Boots for the police department has increased 27.3%. Water wastewater filter cloths has increased 38.1%. And I think most shocking for me is transformers for the electric department have increased 99.8% if you can get them. In regards to labor costs, for last year's fiscal year, the overtime in the police department increased 50.9%. This is a direct reflection of us unable to hire certified police officers. Also, our contracted polygraph testing has increased 11.1%. Contracted landfill analytics has increased 41.6%. And our senior engineer for transportation purposes has increased 20.7%. With all of that, as you will remember during our annual budget presentation, we also discussed, and with our annual goals as well, because of staff and commission, that we realized that our employees were underpaid. We didn't know to what extent, but we do have preliminary figures back from the compensation study, and so that's addressed in a separate slide. With these figures, what it shows is that the electric utility is underpaid by about $186,000. The general fund without police and fire is $253,000. Water and wastewater is $215,000. Solid waste is $69,000. The stormwater fund is underpaid by $37,000. Golf and parks is a little less than $15,000. The maintenance shop is $25,000. Airport is about $9,000. Telecommunications is about $3,500. And then general fund specific to fire is $280,325. Specific to police, $269,757. If we are able to adopt the entire compensation study, your total becomes $1,365,584.36. If you look at that just in respect to the general fund, it's very close to $1 million. This $1 million increase would get us to the minimum of the average. So you're at the 50th percentile from the market study that was done. So you're not even at the top of the market study, you're average, and that's the minimum pay that we would need to get there, is about $1 million in the general fund. We do realize that our utility funds, we think, can sort of assume that increase in their own utility fund. But as far as property taxes are concerned, we budget, again, for the general fund alone, $4,248,250, but the expenses within the general fund by itself are over $35 million. So property tax is really a drop in the bucket when it comes to what the expenses are that we incur throughout the year. Our services that we provide for our citizens are over $24 million. Our supplies are over $5 million in order to provide those services. And then other charges, which are things like intergovernmental transfers, is over $5.5 million. Those numbers do not account for the compensation study. So you're looking at $1 million for general funds, so over $36 million plus 40% of that $1 million for benefits, because you have to include that in your budget as well. So although it looks as though the current millage rate would far exceed what we budgeted in revenue, because we did not account for the compensation study, since we did not have those numbers at the time of budget adoption. If you do not take the current millage rate then you have no way to do anything else for employees, and you still will not be able to meet budget by the end of the year because of the cost increases in supplies and other contracted labor that we have already budgeted for. So at this time, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain those.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Is there anybody on my left that has any questions for the board? Is there anybody on my right?
I have a question.
Yes,
As far as, not to discount anybody else in the other department, but our police pay, we had 50.9% overtime,
yes.
that's because of shortage in the police department.
We average about 12 vacant positions on any given day in the police department.
So how does our salary for our police department here in Griffin stack up against other municipalities in our area?
It depends. It's hard to compare apples to apples because you are gonna have to look at crime rates. You're gonna have to look at not just size of citizenry, but also services that are provided. We have 83 sworn officers, but right now, actually on staff, we have 72, 71 chief left. I don't know, 70 something.
Because
So
we get paid enough to stay.
you can get paid enough to stay, yeah. So it is a problem. I will say that in most municipalities, they're more underpaid than what ours are because we did do the $3 per hour raise, not this past budget, but the budget before for sworn officers. So that has somewhat been accounted for, which is why you're not seeing a higher number there.
The openings that we have in the police department, is that because people are leaving, going to other cities?
Both, some are going to other jurisdictions, some are leaving the field, which is a national problem.
So the ones that go to other cities, is that strictly pay?
Not necessarily. I mean, some of them, they want to go closer to home. Some of them don't want to police in Griffin. It seems to be a wide range of reasons. But a lot, I would say 50-50, it's going to other places and there's different reasons for that, but also just leaving the profession.
And the police isn't our only shortfall. I mean,
No.
water, wastewater department, I believe, they have a dozen or more vacancies right now. Fire department has got. So when you look at the monthly report, there's over 50 plus or minus.
Yeah, the last, I think, 3 months, we have averaged about 50 vacancies, which is more than 10% of our staff. So I actually read an excerpt of a book from Stephen Covey at our last staff meeting and said that everybody right now is being expected to do more with less and to not pay the ones that are doing that. I can't, that's not conscionable to me. So that's why I'm here suggesting that we keep the millage rate what it is.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Just as it pertains to the increase in prices, obviously, no one is psychic, but do we anticipate it to continue increasing at the same rate as, I guess, as market trends are, or?
I would hope not, and some of these increases, you know, we are looking at through budgetary amendments. You've seen some of that in your passage in the items, so some of it we're able to handle right now. But of course, as the budget year goes on, I mean, this is really, we're only through 1 month completely. So I wouldn't expect to continue to see transformers increase 100% next year and next year and next year. I think it will level out, but once you budget for something, even I think in access control I mentioned this morning, we did a PO for that, and within 3 weeks when they were here to start it, it had increased 18.3%. So I mean, I don't know, it's hard to even say at this point.
Well, yeah, I just asked because obviously the discussion is about handling the cost as they're aware to us now.
Right.
But certainly going forward, if the trends continue, we can expect it to become even more expensive.
And I think they will for a while,
Okay.
at least through this budget year.
Any more comments from board members?
Yeah, we adopted current millage rate, it's advertised as an increase. And our constituents, are they aware that it is really not an increase with the state senate?
It's an increase if your property gets reassessed.
Yeah,
If your property stays the exact same, then it's the same.
But the reassessment, that's the county does those reassessments, but not the city.
Correct.
So our state senators put it on us, say it's, millage rate's the same, but it's advertised. It's kind of hard to explain.
What they're saying is if we don't get the exact same amount in property tax this year as we did last year, then obviously what we received did technically increase, but it is not because of our rate increasing. What changed is the value of the home. So the way that I look at it, because mine was reassessed and mine went up, my husband thinks I'm crazy because I was excited. But what happens is that $10,000 or $15,000 that it went up, if I roll that rate back, I'm really not paying taxes on that. So the government is subsidizing that increased value, but yet I could go sell that home for $15,000 more. And I'm still gonna ask for the same services to be provided. So in my opinion, I do think it's a poorly written law. Unfortunately, they didn't ask me. So I'm having to advertise it as what they say that we have to. But yes, in my opinion, for us, we're not increasing our public's tax rate. We are taxing them on their increased value.
And of course, the General Assembly, when they make more revenue off our 6.5% income tax, aren't advertising that they're bringing more state dollars into the coffers because they think they're living the money and no big deal. So don't practice what they preach. All right, so we're going to open up for public hearing. This is a public hearing, the second one of 3. At this time, is there anybody on my left side like to come before the board? If you'll please state your name and address for the record. Anybody on my left side? Is there anybody on my right side like to come before the board? This is a public hearing, last call. And we will have another public hearing the second Tuesday of September.
The 13th, at
13th.
which we will also have on the agenda a resolution to adopt. the
Adopt a
millage rate.
resolution. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to him or to your staff. Okay, moving into the consent agenda. The amended consent agenda is items 2 through 8. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
What got amended?
It's on your desk. There's a name change in terms of the payable on item 4 for the John Deere.
Okay.
So
We accidentally placed the dealer's name in the item title and it needs to be the vendor. So we're buying it from Deere and Company, but dealing with Sun South and Farmstead.
Gotcha, okay.
So do we have a motion to approve the amended consent agenda? So Mr. Tinsley with a motion. Do we have a second?
Okay.
Mrs. Ward with a second. All in favor, please signal by raising your hand. We have a 6-0 vote. Moving into item, under the regular agenda, item 9. Consider the minutes of the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners regular meeting on August 9th. Mr. Brock was absent, and we're glad you're back healthy, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome back, sir.
Good to be back.
So we have a motion to approve the minutes. Mr. Tinsley with a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Ward. All in favor, please signal by raising your hand. 5-0-1 with Mr. Brock abstaining. Item 10 is consider professional engineering agreement with Norfolk Southern Railroad for the engineering assessment of the quiet zone at 13th Street Railroad Crossing in the amount totaling $16,500. And it's my understanding this is reimbursed by the developer at some point in time, according to the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve this engineering agreement? Mrs. Ward with the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Flowers with a second.
I have a question.
Question by Mr. Tinsley.
The $16,500, this is the engineering assessment on Norfolk Southern property.
Yes, well, we are requesting at the request of the developer that the crossing right there at 13th Street and Experiment in West Philly be changed to a quiet zone. Right now they have to blow to go through there. So we're asking that it be, not to get too technical, a side horn where it only blows once they get to the crossing and not all the way down that line. And so they can redevelop that mill, Thompson Mills, to lofts, residential.
Okay, and so the developer, Thompson Mill Lofts, will reimburse the city for this?
They've already paid us, yes.
They already have. Okay, good. Thank you.
So we have a motion by Ms. Ward, second by Ms. Flowers. All in favor, please raise your hand. 6-0. Item 11 is consider a request from the Georgia Public Service Commission for the transfer of retail electric service for the property known as Griffin Village to Central Georgia EMC. This is the Department of Development out of 362. Do we have a motion to approve the request for the request to the Georgia Public Service Commission? Mrs. Ward with a motion. Do we have a second? Second.
Second with the question.
Flowers with a second, and go ahead with your questions, Commissioner Flowers.
Wait, my iPad isn't working. So essentially, this is because they refuse to negotiate.
Yes.
Okay. And are we, oh, hi, you just popped up. I'm just wondering if there have been other developments where we've had similar issues or.
Not that I'm aware of. Typically, when we are in a situation like that, it's a customer choice, a true customer choice. But where with this one, it's not a true customer choice, it's territory rights. So we have territory rights over that property, but Central Georgia EMC has corridor rights, which trump the territory.
Explain that for me.
It just means that, let me show you this map. Have you got your map up?
Yes, and there's too much I keep my place.
There's 2 buildings in our territory, the rest is in
No,
their
I
territory.
understand about the buildings, but she said territory versus corridor.
So this entire area is a city of Griffin territory. But because the 1973 Territory Act, Central Georgia EMC had lines in that area prior to that, and so that takes precedence over our territory.
Okay,
So that's kind of what the map depicts here. So these 2 buildings right here are only 2 that we have the right to serve.
okay, so essentially they were grandfathered in as a primary because they were there first.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
then in essence, they do not want to negotiate with us.
Not unless we have an equal load to trade, which doesn't make sense because we would already have the infrastructure in and serving those customers where we're gonna have to put in about $100,000 to serve those 2. So that just financially doesn't make sense.
It makes more sense now that you said they had infrastructure that preceded this.
Right.
because- Okay.
That's the whole point to the whole thing, is that they had those lines in prior to 1973.
Okay.
Are there any more questions of Ms. Freeman? All right, we have a motion from Ms. Ward, seconded by Commissioner Flowers. All in favor, please signal by raising your hand. 6-0. And our final item on the agenda is item 12 is consider a resolution for section 2-190 emergency procurement of the Griffin Code of Ordinances to ratify the purchase of 2,000 feet of 6-inch PVC pipe in the amount of $27,000 from Ferguson Waterworks, lowest responsible bidder, and to ratify the procurement of emergency labor services for installation and replacement of water main on Hillendale Drive and Valley Road in the amount of $134,868 from Crawford Grading and Pipeline, Inc., lowest responsive bidder, and amend the budget accordingly. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Mr. Tensley with a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. McCord with a second. And I just want to thank staff for having a town hall meeting with the Hellendale folks. It really made a difference for y'all to get the feedback I got. We had, I think, close to 50 people that showed up. 63. So for y'all to get out in front and tell them what was going on, I've heard some very positive things. So thank you. And the project is almost completed, so they're doing very well. So we have motion and second. All in favor of the resolution, please signal by raise your hand. 6-0. Excellent work, folks. All right, moving into the city manager's report.
A quick reminder for Ms. Ward and Mayor Holberg, we will be meeting with the county officials tomorrow to proceed with our local option sales tax and service delivery strategy negotiations. And that'll be upstairs in the 3rd floor conference room. So I look forward to that. Also, for our citizens and employees, our CGA applications are due now. We hope to have a few more. I think we've got about 18 that have applied and will be joining us starting September 8th at 6 p.m. in this courtroom for our first of 10 weeks of classes for Citizens Government Academy. Also, we have unfortunately received notification from GDOT that our Poplar Street Bridge is in disrepair. Once you get to below a 5 on any of the credentials that they look at, they say that it has to be weight limited. So we have a weight limit now of 5 tons on that bridge, which unfortunately for fire, school buses, dump trucks, they can't use it right now. Unfortunately, we were not given that notification that has gone to the county, even though it is a city street. So we just found out around the 1st of August. I think Marisa Eller has finally gotten all of the information. She's been meeting with Brian Hudson. So we already have some plans in place, but it will be a few months before we can get all of that constructed and repaired. to be able to open that back up. The school system is aware. Ms. Eller's been talking with them since as soon as we found out, so they have been able to reroute, and the fire department is also aware. So we are proceeding as fast as we can, but a little bit behind because of notifications.
Can-
Also, as I
Can we
mentioned,
notify whatever does the signaling for trucks and stuff so that they're aware, because that street is used on a regular basis by,
yes, we will make sure we get that handled. Also, as I mentioned in our last meeting, State Route 16 will be closed the week of October 10th through 14th. So Highway 16 closed for a week in order for them to do maintenance work at Gate Ridge Road. I think that they have decided they don't need to close it at Green Valley. The work that has already been completed out there seems to have helped tremendously. And they did actually go with our recommendation to please use State Route 20 as the official press release detour route. Whether or not people use that or not, I'm not sure, but at least it is out there officially to not use 155. And last but not least, you received an email this morning from me in regards to GMA District 4 listening session. It will be on the 29th from 11:30 to 1 in Concord at the RF Strickland building. I've already heard from Mayor Holberg and Commissioner McCord that they would like to attend. So if you would like to attend, let me know and we can get you registered. It is free, but they are providing lunch. They're asking for RSVPs. And that is it for me.
thank you. Mr. Whalen,
I have nothing further.
Mr. Brock,
Comment, sir.
Commissioner Thomas.
Put me down for the listening session. I'd rather RSVP than not. That's it,
And I approve the motion.
Yep,
of course.
we will split it.
Yeah.
Commissioner Ward,
Put me down too, no comments.
Commissioner Tinsley.
I'll have to look at my calendar and see if I
You're busy.
can. I'm busy, man.
He's busy.
I have nothing.
Mr.
Thanks
McCord.
very much for showing up. Appreciate it.
No, definitely.
And I just want to appreciate the citizens coming out and joining us, and staff, thank you for all you do for make our community a great place to live, work, and play. That being said, do we have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Brock with a motion, a second.
Second.
Mr. Tinsley with a second. All in favor, please rise and leave. Thank you.
What is it?